The campus buzzed with life. Late September sun filtered through maple leaves, casting golden shadows on the stone paths winding between ivy-covered lecture halls. Laughter echoed. Shoes clacked against the pavement, and somewhere a guitar hummed. Under a tree, Rose sat alone under that tree. A book lay open in her lap, but her eyes weren't on the pages. They were drifting again. Across the quad to the boy with the headphones. He was laughing with his friends, head tilted slightly as if trying to hear someone better. His hair caught the sunlight, messy and beautiful. His name? Alex. She knew it. Of course, not because they'd spoken, but because she'd overheard it in a lecture hall 2 weeks ago, and since then, it had echoed in her heart like a favorite song. She'd written about him in her poetry notebook. She'd even sketched the exact curve of his smile once in the margin of her notes. He didn't know she existed, but oh, he would someday, just not today. She turned back to her book and smiled to herself. Her cheeks were a little pink elsewhere on campus. Jessica kicked open the glass door of the student center with her boot. She walked like she owned the pavement, hair in a high ponytail, sunglasses perched on her head, crop top hugging her figure just right. Two boys turned their heads. She smiled at one, winked at the other. She didn't even know their names, but her mind wasn't on them. It was on Heimelech. Shit met him at a late night study group he'd corrected her on a history date, and instead of being annoyed, she'd laugh. That confidence, that kindness, that crooked, clueless smile. God, how was he not taken? He was different, not like the others. He didn't flirt, he didn't chase. He didn't even seem to notice half the girls drooling over him that made her want him even more. He's going to be mine, she whispered under her breath, passing the art building that afternoon. Fate played its first card. Rose sat at her usual corner table in the library cafe, slowly sipping a chai latte, sketching clouds in her notebook. Jessica, looking for a quiet place to charge her phone, spotted the empty seat beside her and sat down without asking. Ugh, this place is freezing, she muttered. Rose blinked. Oh, hi. Jessica glanced sideways. Hi, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your cloud diary. Rose laughed softly. That's not a diary, I just draw what I feel. Jessica tilted her head. Cool, I'm Jessica. Rose. They shook hands awkwardly. Long pause, then, like a light bulb in the dark, they both said it at once. Do you like... No, Alex? Both their eyes widened. The butterflies didn't just flutter. They screamed. The silence stretched for a moment too long. Jessica blinked first. Wait, Alex, Alex? As in tall, headphones, kinda dreamy, but totally unaware of it. Rose's cheeks turned, a soft rose pink. Yes, that Alex. Jessica let out a short laugh, more surprised than anything. No way you like him? Rose tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her voice barely above a whisper. I think I more than like him. Jessica leaned back in her chair and crossed her arms, a slight smirk tugging at the corners of her lips. Well, isn't this something? Rose looked down at her chai, fingers nervously tracing the rim. You too. Jessica didn't respond immediately. She stared out the library window, watching a group of students walk by with iced coffees and tangled headphones. Then she sighed, shrugged, and said it like she was talking about the weather. Yeah, me too. There was a strange beat of silence between them. Neither girl knew what to say. Two strangers, tied together by a boy who didn't even know either of them existed in the way they wished he did. I've never told anyone. Rose said softly. He's kind. He listens in class, and he helps people without expecting anything. That guy've written about him pages. Jessica raised an eyebrow. You write poems? Rose nodded shyly. Jessica bit her lip. I don't write anything, but I've definitely flirted. Not that it's worked. He's either clueless or playing hard to get. Rose smiled. I don't think he's the playing type. Jessica studied her. For a moment. You're sweet and way too innocent for this kind of thing. Rose tilted her head. What kind of thing? Jessica leaned forward, lowering her voice. A love triangle. Rose blinked. I don't want to fight you. Jessica laughed. Not unkindly. Fight me? No, honey, we don't have to throw down over a guy. Then she paused, a glint forming in her eyes. But what if we made a deal? Rose looked unsure. What kind of deal? Jessica straightened in her seat. We're both into Alex neither. Of us is backing down, but what if we took turns? You go first. If he falls for you, I back off. If he doesn't, then it's my shot. Rose stared at her, wide-eyed. You want to schedule our love lives? Jessica smirked. You got a better plan? Rose hesitated, her heart thudded nervously, but there was something oddly respectful about Jessica's offer. She wasn't cruel, she wasn't fake. She was honest in a way that stung, but didn't cut. Okay, Rose said, surprising even herself. Deal, Jessica grinned. And may the best girl win. That night, Rose wrote in her notebook, the moon looks softer when I think of him tomorrow. Maybe I'll say hello, or maybe I'll just smile and let him notice. Please notice across campus. Jessica stood in front of her mirror, trying on earrings. Round one. She whispered, let's see if the shy girl gets the prince. She laughed, but her laugh sounded a little too hollow. She made the deal, thinking she'd win. She just didn't. Expect Rose to be the kind of girl that made everyone fall in love quietly. Slowly, like a sunrise you didn't see coming Monday, came dressed in blue skies and a breeze. Just light enough to carry the scent of autumn leaves across the quad rows, stood at the edge of the campus cafe, holding a tray with 2 drinks. Her hands trembled slightly, not from the weight, but from the weight of what today meant. Her chance. Jessica had kept her word. You get a week, she'd said. Try your magic. Rose petal, I'll be in the shadows, watching like a villain from a rom-com. Rose didn't laugh at that, but she nodded, because she had to try. She owed it to her heart, and now, standing outside the cafe, she watched Alex from a short distance. He was alone, typing something quickly on his laptop, one earbud and fingers tapping rhythmically against the keys. He wore a gray hoodie and the same worn sneakers she once saw him trip in. He'd laughed at himself then. She remembered everything. She took a deep breath and stepped forward. Hi, Alex looked up for a second. Confusion flickered across his face then. Hey, a Rose, right? He remembered her name. She smiled, her heart skipping. Yeah. I noticed you didn't get your coffee yet. I was inside, so I got you one. I hope you like caramel. Alex blinked, touched. That's really kind. You didn't have to. I wanted to. She set the cup in front of him. You always sit here. I figured it's your thinking spot. He laughed. It kind of is. She sat down across from him, slowly, waiting for him to object. He didn't instead. He pulled out his other earbud. Want to listen? Rose's eyes lit up. To what? Music. I'm writing lyrics for a song. She took the earbud gently. It was warm, personal. It felt like holding a secret as the soft acoustic guitar filled her ears. She closed her eyes. The melody was gentle, like rainfall through trees. It sounded like the kind of music someone writes when they're trying to understand their own heart. It's beautiful, she whispered. He looked at her. Thinks I'm kind of stuck on the chorus. What's it about? He hesitated. Love, I guess the kind you don't expect. She didn't know why, but that made her heart ache in the best way. They sat there, listening to the song, their drinks forgotten after an hour. They walked together across campus, not touching, not saying much, but in step. And at one point, as they passed the library fountain, Alex glanced over at her and smiled. Truly smiled. Not just polite or amused, a smile like he saw something in her. Her knees nearly gave out. Jessica watched. From a bench nearby, sunglasses on, one leg crossed over the other, she sipped her iced coffee and gave a low whistle to herself. Well, damn, she murmured. That was smoother than I expected. She wasn't jealous. Not yet, but something inside her tightened. Chad expected Rose to be sweet. She hadn't expected her to be magnetic in a way that crept up slowly and wrapped around people without them realizing it. Game on, darling, she said softly that night. Rose wrote again. He remembered my name, and he smiled like he meant it, maybe. This is the beginning of something, or maybe it's just a dream I'll wake up from either way. Today felt like sunlight Wednesday morning, arrived like a challenge in disguise. Jessica stood in front of her mirror, curling her hair with a little more care than usual. Her lips were glossed, lashes curled, jeans ripped just enough to look accidental. The tank top she chose was her casual, cute, favorite flirty, but not desperate. She knew exactly how to light a spark and keep it smoldering today. Was her day. She didn't envy Rose, not exactly, but she couldn't pretend she hadn't noticed the way Alex smiled when he left the cafe 2 days ago. Jessica had watched from across the street, pretending not to care, but she'd seen everything: the shared earbuds, the way they walked, the smile. It wasn't a polite smile. It was the beginning of something dangerous. She wouldn't let it grow roots midday. She spotted Alex outside the gym, sipping water and scrolling through his phone alone. Perfect. Hey, handsome, she said. Striding toward him, Alex looked up, confused for half a second before recognition hit. Jessica, right? Got it in one, she said, tossing her hair. I was just thinking, you've been looking way too serious lately. Thought I'd fix that. Alex chuckled. Is that so? Jessica handed him a cold bottle of lemonade. It's summer somewhere. He raised an eyebrow. You just carry these around? She winked. Only for people worth it? He laughed. Thanks, that's really sweet. Sweet? Please. She leaned against the railing beside him. I'm more of a spark with a bite. Alex took a sip, and Jessica noticed he wasn't looking. Away, he was watching her, curious. Tell me something, Alex, she said, turning toward him. Do you believe in timing? He shrugged. Sometimes, because I do. She continued, and I think the universe has this weird way of pushing people together at just the right moment. Is this the right moment? She smiled. Could be. Alex didn't respond right. Away, he looked out at the quad, thoughtful. You know, Rose said something like that the other day about moments. Jessica blinked. She hadn't expected him to bring her up so casually. He smiled again. She's sweet, kind of dreamy. Jessica forced a chuckle. Yeah, she's adorable. She hated how much she meant it later that evening. Jessica found herself standing at the edge of a rooftop party. Music thumped below her feet. Laughter spilling from the open balcony doors. She held a red plastic cup in her hand. Barely sipped. Alex had texted her, hey, tonight's fun, you coming? He'd invited her. That had to mean something, right? She spotted him across the crowd. He wasn't dancing, but he looked relaxed, leaning against the wall, talking to someone. His eyes lifted and found hers for a moment. Time blurred. He smiled. Jessica smiled back, and this time it was real, not practiced, not polished, just real. She made her way toward him. They sat on the rooftop ledge later, both looking out at the city lights. The hum of the party was just background noise now. Jessica dangled her legs over the edge, careless and calm. This place feels like a dream sometimes. Alex nodded. It does. I'm not always like this, she said softly. Like what? Loud, flirty. I mean, I am, but not always. Sometimes I just want someone to look past all that. Alex turned to her. What do you want them to see? She looked at him. I want them to see that I care, even if I act like I don't. Silence. Then, gently, Alex said, I see that. Her breath caught for a second. The air between them felt charged, almost electric, like something might happen. He looked at her lips, just for a moment, but then he looked away. Jessica felt it, the hesitation, the weight of someone else's shadow in his heart, and she knew he was still thinking about Rose that night. Jessica didn't write in any journal, but she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, whispering into the dark. You smiled at me like I was the only one here, but your heart was already walking away. The next few days felt different. Alex didn't notice it at first, not clearly, but something had changed. He wasn't sure when it started. Maybe it was when Rose smiled and handed him a cup of coffee with his name written in cursive, followed by a little star, or maybe it was when Jessica sat too close during the party and said things that made his heart skip and ache at the same time. But now, the air around him felt charged, like a storm was coming, and he was standing barefoot in the middle of the road, not knowing which direction to run. Rose had felt it till she hadn't seen Jessica since Monday. Not in the cafe, not in the library. It was strange. Their friendship, if it could be called that, had been short, but sharp, real, in its own fragile way. But ever since the deal, they'd been ghosts to each other until Thursday afternoon. Rose spotted her across the quad, sitting on a bench near the fountain with sunglasses on and one AirPod in, watching. Students passed like she was choosing who lived in her movie. Rose hesitated, then walked over. "Hey," she said. Quietly, Jessica didn't look up. "Hey." Awkward pause. Rose sat beside her. "You've been distant." Jessica blew a bubble with her gum, popped it, and said, "Just giving you your week." Rose nodded. "Right, the deal." Jessica turned to her, sunglasses sliding down just enough to reveal her eyes calm, but something behind them was unsettled. "So?" she asked. "How's it going?" Rose hesitated. "We've talked, walked, shared music." He smiles at me differently now. Jessica's jaw tensed. "He did that with me too." Rose looked down at her hands. "I think he's trying to figure it out." "Yeah. Well, he better figure it out fast." Jessica stood, brushing off her jeans. She wasn't angry, but she wasn't okay. "Either I like you, Rose," she said softly. "Too much to pretend this doesn't sting." Rose looked up. "Then maybe we stop pretending." Jessica gave a half smile. "What?" And both walk away. "Maybe." Jessica shook her head. "That's not how hearts work." Later that night, Alex stared at his phone. One message from Jessica: "Tell me something real right now." And another from Rose: "Today felt quiet. I missed your voice." He didn't know which one to answer first, so he didn't reply to either. Instead, he walked out into the night, headphones in, music loud, hoping it would drown out the war inside his chest. He liked Rose. She was gentle in a world that rushed past softness. She made him feel seen in a way that echoed. But Jessica, she was fire and storms and danger. But underneath, there was a girl who wanted to be held, not chased, who wanted to be chosen, not assumed. And here he was in the middle, with a heart full of questions and two girls who didn't deserve to wait. Meanwhile, Jessica wrote something. For the first time in a long time, in a locked notes app, she typed, "I saw the way he looked at you, and for a second, I hated it. Not because he loved you, but because he never looked at me like that, without looking away right after Friday arrived." With overcast skies and the smell of rain hanging in the air, the campus was quieter than usual. Wrapped in a kind of softness only cloudy days can bring, Alex found himself in the music room, a sanctuary of silence, instruments, and dust-sweet air. He sat at the old upright piano, keys worn and warm under his fingers. He didn't play right. Away he just sat. He was supposed to be working on his song, the one Rose had listened to, the one Jessica had asked about, the one that started as a love letter to no one, but now felt like a confession trapped in chords. But every note he played reminded him of them. Later that afternoon, he saw Rose by the library steps. She was wearing a blue cardigan that matched the sky, hair loose and curled at the ends like soft waves. Her eyes lit up when she saw him, and she tucked her poetry notebook quickly into her bag, as if afraid he might say something too personal. "Hi," she said, her voice like a breeze. Alex smiled, but there was hesitation behind it. "Hey, you okay?" she asked. He paused. "I think so." They sat together on the stone steps. No music, no coffee, no distractions, just air between them and something unspoken growing inside it. "You make things quiet," he said suddenly. She looked over at him. "What do?" "You mean, when I'm around you, it's like the world stops buzzing. I don't have to be anything." Rose blinked slowly, like she was memorizing his words one at a time. You don't have to be anything around me, she whispered. Just be. Alex felt a lump in his throat. He almost reached for her hand, but didn't instead. He stood up, offered her a half smile, and said, I'll see you tomorrow. She nodded. I'll be here. That evening, Jessica waited by the amphitheater steps, a place she knew Alex passed after music class. She'd been sitting there for almost an hour, not because she was desperate, at least that's what she told herself, but because he mattered, and she hated that he mattered this much. When he finally walked by, hoodie on, earbuds in, eyes low, she stood. Alex? He turned, surprised. Jessica? She hesitated. I needed to see you. He pulled out an earbud. Everything okay? Jessica stepped closer. You're quiet around me lately? I've just been thinking. About what? Alex swallowed. His voice was barely above a whisper, about how this got so complicated. Jessica nodded. You didn't ask for it. Neither did we, but here we are. They stood in silence for a long moment then. She reached out slowly, bravely, and touched his arm. I'm not asking for promises, she said, or labels. I just want you to feel something when you're with me. And if you don't tell me, I'll walk. Alex looked at her, really looked tanned. The truth hit him like thunder in his chest. He did feel something with Jessica, excitement, fire. The thrill of being seen, but with Rose. He felt peace, and suddenly he realized how rare that was. He didn't say anything that night. He just walked away slowly, hands in his pockets. Heart pounding, not with joy or pain, but with clarity beginning to bloom like a storm on the horizon. Jessica sat down on the steps and whispered to the night. He looked at me like I was almost enough, but not quite, and somehow that hurts worse than being forgotten. Saturday morning dawned quiet, no buzzing phones, no plans, just silence and a sky that couldn't decide whether it wanted to be sunny or gray. Alex sat in his room, staring at the screen of his laptop, his playlist. Looped a soft instrumental track, no lyrics. Just aching piano. He hadn't spoken to either of them in 24 hours because now he knew. The moment had arrived. The line in the sand he never wanted to draw had already been drawn by time. By feelings, by the soft way Rose had said, just be, and the quiet desperation in Jessica's I'll walk, and still. He wished it didn't have to be this way, but love doesn't wait forever. He texted Rose first. Can we talk tomorrow? Morning. Just us. Then he texted Jessica. Are you free today? I need to see you. 2 messages, 2 directions. Jessica got the text while getting dressed. She stared at it for a long time. Her hand hovered over her phone like it was suddenly too heavy. This was it. She knew. Her chest felt tight, breath shallow, but she replied with only one word. Where? They met at the old bridge behind the science building. A quiet place students only passed through, never stayed at. When Alex arrived, Jessica was already there, leaning over the railing, wind teasing strands of her hair. You picked the breakup spot, she said with a dry smile. Alex winced. Just say it. She cut in. I don't need you to sugarcoat anything. He stepped closer slowly. I meant everything I said to you. He began. You're incredible. You light up rooms without even trying. You challenge me. You made me feel again when I didn't know I needed to. Jessica turned, eyes shining, but not yet tearing. So why not me? Alex hesitated. Then he whispered, because when I look at her, I see the kind of future that doesn't scare me with you. I don't know who I'd have to become to be enough, but with her, I'm already there. Jessica flinched. She had expected it, but it still cut deep. I gave you every version of me, she said softly, even the one no one sees. Alex looked at her with something like regret. I know, and I'll never forget. She nodded slowly, then gave a shaky laugh. Promise me something? Anything, if it doesn't work out with her. Don't come running back to me just because I'm easy to find. Alex swallowed hard. I won't. And just like that, Jessica walked away head high, heels sharp against the stone, but as soon as she turned the corner and was out of sight, Her hand flew to her mouth, and her body shook with silent tears. The next morning, Rose waited on the campus hilltop, where the sun touched the trees like gold. She didn't know why her heart was racing. She'd spent the whole night convincing herself not to expect anything, but when she saw Alex walking toward her, slow and certain, holding a single daisy in his hand, she knew he stood in front of her. Gently held out the flower. "Hi," he said. She smiled, tears already forming in her eyes. "Hi, I don't want to be confused anymore," he said. "I don't want to wonder or weigh or look in two directions." She looked up at him, soft and shaking. "And which way are you looking now?" she asked. He smiled, and it was the most clear he had ever been. "At you." That evening, Jessica deleted the only photo she had of him, but she kept the note he left in her jacket pocket once. The one that said, "You're impossible to forget." She hated how much truth lived in that sentence, and maybe one day she'd love someone who chose her without hesitation, but tonight, she let herself cry, then stood up, wiped her face, and whispered, "I was lightning. He needed a sky. I'll find someone who was born to burn with me." Sunday sunlight streamed through the tall glass windows of the art museum near campus, one of Rose's favorite places. She'd never told anyone about it before. It was her quiet escape, that now she was showing Alex. They walked in slowly, their steps echoing in the stillness. There was no music playing, no words exchanged for several moments, just the soft shuffle of shoes on polished floors and the occasional pause in front of a painting rose, stopped in front of a canvas with nothing but streaks of gold. Blue and white like a sunrise captured in motion. Alex stood beside her. "You like this one?" She nodded. "It looks like peace." He looked at her. "You look like peace." She turned to him, surprised his voice was low, honest. I think I spent so long chasing excitement, I didn't realize how much I needed quiet. How much I needed someone who made space for me to breathe." Rose's lips parted, but she couldn't speak. Her chest felt too full, not in a heavy way, but in that dizzy, warm, first love way, like a butterfly had found its wings inside her. And then, without overthinking, Alex reached down and took her hand fingers, laced no words needed. They sat later at the museum cafe, sipping tea and sharing a single almond croissant like it was a treasure. "I still feel bad," Alex admitted, brushing crumbs off the table. About Jessica, Rose was quiet. "I never meant to lead her on," he continued, "but I think, part of me wanted to feel something with her. I think I tried to." Rose looked at him gently. "I know." He blinked. "You do?" "I saw the way she looked at you," Rose said. "It hurt. But I knew you had to find your way to me, not be pushed." He reached across the table, touched her wrist lightly. "You're not a second choice. I don't feel like one," she said, smiling softly. "I feel like the right one, at the right time." Alex let out a breath. He didn't realize he'd been holding, "I want to do this right." "Rose, I want slow mornings, long walks. I want to write music and have you sitting next to me. Writing poems and chai lattes," she added, grinning. He left endless chai and honesty, she said quietly. He looked into her eyes, always, that night. Rose sat on her bed with her notebook, legs curled under her, fairy lights glowing above her head. She wrote. He held my hand like it was the answer to a question he'd been asking for years, not because it was perfect, but because it was his. I think that's what love feels like, a choice made every day, but not far across campus. In her apartment, Jessica stared out the window with a glass of wine in one hand and her phone in the other. No texts, no updates. She wasn't angry anymore, just hollow, and that's when the ache crept in, not just for Alex, but for Rose too. They were friends once, almost, and now she felt like she'd lost two people. She whispered to herself, maybe the love story wasn't mine, but I was part of it, and maybe that matters. The first week of the new semester was supposed to be fresh, a clean slate, but for Alex and Rose, the days were heavy with unsaid things. They walked across campus together, hand in hand, but sometimes their fingers loosened, not because of doubt, but because memories lingered like shadows that stretched longer than the sun one afternoon. Rose found Alex scrolling through his phone with a distant look. She nudged him gently. "Everything okay?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah. Just old messages." She bit her lip. "From Jessica?" He nodded. "Yeah, I haven't talked to her since but she still texts sometimes." Rose's fingers tightened around his. "Do you want to talk to her?" Alex shook his head. "No. But I can't pretend she doesn't exist. It's complicated." Rose sighed softly. "Love always is. Later." Jessica sat in the same cafe where she had first met Alex and Rose. Her coffee was cold, her thoughts colder. She stared at a text from an unknown number. "I miss you." It wasn't from Alex. Her heart stopped at the campus library. Jessica's phone buzzed again this time. It was a message from a guy she barely knew, but who had always shown interest. "Maybe we could start fresh." Coffee? No pressure. Jessica hesitated. Was she ready? Or was she just trying to fill the silence Alex left behind? Meanwhile, Alex and Rose faced their own tests during a late-night study session. Rose accidentally left her poetry notebook on the table. Alex picked it up, flipping through. Pages filled with dreams, fears, and lines about love and loss. He read a passage aloud without thinking. Sometimes the heart chooses the quiet. Even when the world screams for the storm. Rose looked up, cheeks flushed. "It's about us," she whispered. Alex closed the notebook. Gently, "It's beautiful." But then he added, "And scary, that weekend." Jessica decided to take a chance. She texted the guy back. "Coffee sounds good," as she closed her phone. A single tear slipped down her cheek. Back on campus, Alex kissed Rose under the stars, trying to drown out the noise of what had been and what might be. But even as their lips met, the past lingered, whispering reminders that love is never simple, and hearts are never easy to heal. The campus was alive with chatter and the golden hues of early autumn leaves drifted lazily from trees, mirroring the swirl of thoughts in Alex's mind. He had invited Rose to the rooftop of the student center, a quiet spot where the city's skyline stretched out like a promise. As they settled on the bench, the night breeze tugged gently at Rose's hair. Alex took a deep breath. "I need to tell you something." Rose looked up, eyes curious but patient. "I haven't been completely honest about Jessica." Her heart skipped, but she kept her voice steady. "What do you mean?" He swallowed. "I tried to talk to her after I chose you, just to clear the air." Rose's fingers curled tighter around his. "How did that go?" "Bad. She's hurt, angry, and maybe still hoping." Rose bit her lip, trying not to let jealousy spike. "Do you still have feelings for her?" Alex shook his head. "No, but I owe her respect and honesty." Rose studied him for a moment. "I want to believe that I want to trust you." He cupped her face gently. "I'm yours." Rose completely. Meanwhile, Jessica's coffee date wasn't what she expected. The guy was nice, too nice, and his easy charm didn't reach the parts of her that still ached. When he asked, "Are you over him?" She paused. "Not yet," she whispered. Later that evening, Jessica's phone buzzed again. A message from Alex. "Can we talk?" "Please." Her breath caught. Alex waited outside her apartment, nerves twisting in his stomach when she opened the door. Their eyes met, both full of things left unsaid. "I'm sorry for how things ended," Alex said, voice rough. "I didn't mean to hurt you." Jessica looked away, voice steady but soft. "You didn't choose me. That was the hardest part." He nodded. "I know, but I want us to be honest from now on. No more deals, no more secrets." Jessica met his eyes again, searching. "I don't know what the future holds," she said finally, "but maybe we can be friends." Alex smiled, relief flooding through him. "I'd like that." Back on the rooftop, Rose watched the stars, wondering if love was always this complicated. She whispered into the night, "Love isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to face the cracks." The air had grown colder, The first hints of winter creeping into the city inside the campus coffee shop. Rose stirred her chai latte absent-mindedly, her eyes distant yet glowing with warmth. Alex sat across from her, hands wrapped around his cup, trying to find the right words. "I've been thinking a lot about us," he began, "about how fragile love is, how easy it is to break someone without meaning to." Rose smiled softly. "But love also teaches us how to mend slowly, piece by piece." He nodded. "I want to build something real with you." Their fingers found each other across the table, fingers interlacing, a silent promise. Meanwhile, Jessica was discovering something new about herself. She met with the guy from the coffee date again. Not because she was ready for love, but because she was ready to healing their conversations. She laughed freely, shared stories, and for the first time in weeks, felt the lightness she thought she'd lost one evening. Jessica and Rose crossed paths outside the campus library. The years-long tension simmering beneath their smiles was palpable. Jessica cleared her throat. "Rose, I want to thank you." Rose blinked, surprised. "For what?" "For being who you are, for being his choice." Rose's cheeks flushed. "It wasn't easy for any of us." Jessica smiled faintly. "Maybe it's time we stop competing. Maybe we can be friends." Rose's eyes shone with unshed tears. "I'd like that." That night, Alex stood alone on the bridge where he had once made a painful choice. He looked up at the stars, whispering, "Love is messy, unpredictable, but maybe that's what makes it worth." I pulled out his phone and sent a message. "To both Jessica and Rose, thank you for your patience, for your honesty, for your hearts." The winter sun hung low over the city, casting long, gentle shadows as snowflakes began to drift down. Soft and silent Alex stood at the campus courtyard, nervous but certain. Today was the day he would no longer hide behind hesitation or fear. He saw Rose approaching, her cheeks rosy from the cold, eyes bright with a smile that lit the frost around her. Jessica arrived moments later, wrapped in a warm coat, carrying a single red rose, the symbol of what once was, and what might still be in another form. The three of them stood together in the quiet morning, breaths misting in the crisp air. Alex took a deep breath. "I've made mistakes," he said softly, "but what I've learned is this: love isn't about possession or competition. It's about honesty, respect, and choosing what feels like home." He looked at Rose. "Then Jessica, Rose, you showed me peace, the calm I never knew I needed. And Jessica, you taught me fire, the passion that keeps me alive." Jessica smiled, eyes shining, "And I'm learning to find my own fire." Rose reached for Alex's hand, squeezing it gently. "And I want to walk this path with you." Alex looked back at Jessica. "Thank you for everything." Jessica nodded. "Thank you for helping me find myself." The snow fell heavier now, blanketing the world in white. A fresh start later, Alex and Rose walked hand in hand, laughter spilling between them like a promise. Jessica watched from a distance, a peaceful smile on her lips, feeling lighter than she had in months. Her phone buzzed with a message from the new guy she'd met. "Coffee tomorrow? Maybe a new beginning?" She typed back, "I'd like that." As the city shimmered under winter's hush, three hearts beat on each on their own path, but forever connected by the beautiful, messy truth of love.